Hi guys, my name is Anna, and today I am talking about Pachinko, which is a new series that was released on Apple TV Plus about a week ago. It's based on the New York Times bestseller book of the same name by Min Lee, and I very highly recommend you read the book. I finished it about a few weeks ago and I loved it, so go read this. It covers 4 generations of a Korean family from about 1910 to 1989, and it talks about their lives during the Japanese colonization of Korea. So the word pachinko refers to a Japanese pinball machine that you use for gambling, and it's named this because one of the characters in the book ends up working at a pachinko parlor, but the unpredictable and uncontrollable nature of the game is a metaphor for the characters' stories. The first 3 episodes was released on Apple TV on March 25th, and they're releasing a new episode each week, and there are 8 in total. It has stellar reviews from all the critics, and it currently has a 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. If you're going to watch anything Korean content this year, this is it. It's entirely in the original intended language, which is Korean and Japanese, and the languages are subtitled in different colors, so you can clearly see which language is being spoken. So Korean is in yellow, Japanese is in blue, and some of the bits that are in English is in white. And this is actually super interesting because you can see when some of the characters switch language mid-sentence. And I can relate to this as a bilingual speaker. Sometimes I say a sentence in English, and then for some words I use Korean because it's just more fitting. And the way they subtitled this, I think is really appropriate, especially for the later generations of the family that grew up in Japan mainly. Also, I remember watching the movie Memoirs of a Geisha years ago, and I remember wondering why the entire cast spoke in English when it was meant to be based in Japan. Now with the success of Squid Game and all the other K-dramas that are just purely in Korean, I think it's great that Asian content can be released like this to the global market in its original language without being all Hollywoodized. The cast is brilliant, and there are famous names such as Youn Yuh Jung. She has been in Minari and she is an Oscar-winning actress. She is basically the Meryl Streep of Korea. And of course, Minho, who is like a veteran K-drama actor. He's been in so many things and he is great in this. 3 actresses play the role of the main protagonist, Sonja, one as a child, one as a teen, and the one at the later stage of her life when she is elderly. Lee Minho plays a villain for the first time in his career, and when he read the script, it moved him so much, it prompted him to audition for the first time in 13 years. He plays the part of Ko Han-soo. And spoiler alert, but he basically knocks up a young teenage Sonja and then tells her that he can't marry her because he already has a wife and 3 kids back in Japan. And you can see in the 4 episodes that have been released so far that he can be very tender and caring towards her, but he can also say the worst and meanest things to her when he becomes angry. Pachinko, the series, it flits between timelines, so it can go from her childhood and then it goes to when she's in her elderly years, whereas the book, it goes in a more linear fashion. It might be slightly confusing in episode 1, but I actually think they've done this to reflect the unpredictability of the story. So Pachinko also follows a guy named Solomon in 1989, and he is the grandson of Sonja. He is working for an American real estate company, a typical boomer, and he's very focused on making money and getting ahead. He goes to Japan because there is an elderly Korean lady in Tokyo who is refusing to sell her house, and the company that he works for, they want to buy that house and they want to make new buildings on that land. And he goes there so convinced that he can get her to sell, and he promises the lady a lot of money. But for the elderly lady, her name is Kumja, it was never about money for her. And in episode 4, there's a scene where she walks in and everyone in the company is there waiting for her to just sign on the line. And she starts making a speech, starting in Japanese, and she talks about how when she first arrived in Japan, her and everyone else were treated like second-class citizens because, they were immigrants. And halfway through, she switches to Korean, which only Solomon can understand. And she was saying they treated us like cockroaches, they wanted to stomp us into the ground. And if I were your grandmother, would you be telling her right now to sell my house away to these Japanese people? So for her, keeping the house was never about money issues. It was more about her dignity and her act of rebellion. And Solomon, who up until this point has just mainly been about money and success, he shows that he still has humanity left in him as he tells Kumja, don't sign the contract. And she beams into this massive smile. to show that she is happy about this, and she leaves and he gets into a bunch of trouble with his work, but that's what he chose. And the next sequence is like a gorgeous scene where he just like runs out into the rain. He takes off his jacket and he starts dancing to like a band playing, and he's just like, he feels this freedom. And this scene is interspersed with Sonja, who has finally come back to Korea, Busan specifically, the place where she had left so many years ago to leave to Japan. She finally has returned to her homeland, and she is like crying and laughing at the same time. It's also raining on her, and she goes into the waters of the Busan beach, and she's just so ecstatic that she's finally at her homeland again. Episode 4 just did something for me. It was the best episode in my opinion so far. There's still 4 more to go. It just triggered something for me because growing up, I kind of always felt like I had identity issues too. In my blood, I'm definitely Korean, but I lived more than half of my life in the UK. And so I never truly felt like I belonged in either place, because people from either place would tell me like, oh, I can tell like you're not from here. You know, this kind of thing. Not that I am comparing my life with, you know, what they've been through, because my life in the UK was very privileged and not hard. But I kind of related to her, oh, I'm coming home kind of feeling. So yeah, basically in episode 4, Solomon and Sonja, they both re-identify with their Korean heritage, and all the different timelines that were built up during the first 3 episodes, they finally all come together and it makes sense. And I'm just totally invested now. I'm going to carry on watching this until it's finished. I have to be honest, I didn't have Apple TV Plus, but I got the free trial just for this, and I will just pay until I have finished watching the series. The cinematography in this is absolutely stunning. Like every shot looks like a painting. And the soundtrack is stellar. It fits so good with all the emotional scenes. And this kind of content showcases Korea in a different way to, you know, Squid Game or like a zombie movie. Because this shows the real, painful, recent Korean history in a very poignant way, and shows how people endured through so much and still survived. It honestly made me think about my grandparents and their families, and although the stories of suffering is not news to me, it still gave me a reminder to be grateful for what I have today and what kind of world that I was born into. One thing I found out as I was, you know, reading the articles about the series was that Solomon is played by a Korean American actor called Jinha, and this kind of shocked me, but apparently he had like this Tumblr blog in like 2010-11. He was in Korea during that time, and he took pictures of elderly Korean ladies on the subway, on public transport, and he would put them on his blog without blurring out their faces or anything. And these were candid, like they didn't know they were getting their pictures taken. And he would write sexual comments about these elderly ladies. It's actually really disturbing. Like, I think that is such a shame, because the actual drama itself is so good and I really think everyone should watch it. He has since apologized on his website that like, yeah, he shouldn't have done this and it was like a terrible mistake. But like, yikes, like why would you do that? It's just very, very creepy. But putting that aside, I genuinely think this is one of the best Korean drama series to be released this year. And I highly recommend that you go and check out the book too, because I loved it. The entire message of Pachinko is about resilience and having the strength to carry on through whatever shitty things life throws at you. And this is personally something that really resonates with me and how I try to live my life. So let me know if you have watched the series or read the book, and let me know your thoughts down below. I'm honestly genuinely interested to hear what everyone's opinions are. I'll be finishing the rest of the series as each new episode comes out each week. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one.